these fucking roaches and shit. Oh, God, motherfucking damn it. Fred Quisha's murderous gaze was laser focused onto 5 black brownish roaches, all ranging in sizes. Ugh, and a bitch ain't got time for this shit today. I'm hungry and a bitch needs to get her pussy ate. The agitated Section 8 strag continued to nag. The biggest roach, Daddy Roach Sr., embarked on a dangerous journey to lead his family to a mecca of stale food. His wings lightly flapped. He used his long, wise antennas to lead his loyal wife of 32 days, their 2 well-trained teenage sons, and their precious baby daughter toward the distant smell of decaying Domino's, pepperoni, and sausage pizza crust hiding away in the dark corner of Fred Quisha's messy apartment living room. Every 3rd Friday of the month, when them food stamps hit her EBT card, Fred Quisha usually treated her 3 kids to greasy pizza, saucy buffalo wings, and Cinesticks. The pizza fiesta was sort of like a food stamp renewal day of celebration. Truth be told, though, the pizza was also a way to get the motherfucking kids temporarily off her flabby, tatted back. Fred Quisha hated to have to spend her weekends watching her badass kids, especially when she needed to get ate out and digged down by some local Chirac savage. Only God knows why she was so annoyed watching them. Ain't like the bitch had a job where her weekends were invaluable, deserving precious relief from a hard week of work. Every day was a fucking weekend for this hoe. Anyways, this particular crust Daddy Roach Sr. scented had been nestled away for weeks, shit, possibly months, out of the purview of other vermin living in the grimy apartment. Had Fred Quisha's mama taught her the importance of admiring cleanliness as a virtue, the months-old crust would have been a non-issue. Perhaps then Fred Quisha would have not been staring down the critter family peacefully pilgrimaging along the hallway's dusty, white cracking baseboard. I swear to God, these motherfucking kids keeping my house nasty as shit. They getting on my last damn nerves, and I got shit to do today. They really gonna make me go off on their motherfucking asses, Fred Quisha griped under her dry, morning, blunt-infused breath. Fred Quisha, better known as Moo Moo in the streets, positioned herself in close proximity to the migrant roach family. A bitch was ready to go to war against the critter enemies invading her living room. Her eyes turned to homicidal slits. A butterfly of anxiety flapped its wings in her growling, empty stomach. Fred Quisha knew roaches were hard to motherfucking kill. If she was going to be victorious in offing this sneaky fuck nigger roach and his family, she needed to smite hard, so she could crush their organs, killing them on instant impact. Fred Quisha raised her right foot, leaned down, and then pulled off her Walmart black flip-flop. Now armed and dangerous with the $2.99 plastic flip-flop in her hand, she slowly and carefully hovered her weapon of her choice over Daddy Roach Sr. His long antennas wavered side to side, unaware of Fred Quisha's looming death plot. Raised in Chicago's notorious Cabrini Green housing project high-rises till the age of 20, Fred Quisha had no trace of fear for roaches in her body. No fear of white mice, no fear of daddy long leg spiders, not even a trace of fear for Norwegian brown rats, once a major problem in Chicago slums. Ducking and dodging at the sound of rapid gunfire was the most valuable tool any young nigger growing up in Chicago's fucked up and ultra-violent housing projects had to learn quickly. And then the next valuable housing project survival skill young niggas had to acquire was the art of killing roaches. Fear of stray bullets aside, any child, regardless of socioeconomic status, starts off with an innate fear of insects, bugs, and other creepy, monstrous creatures. Nonetheless, young project niggas are taught to cultivate Japanese samurai warrior-like fearlessness when it comes to living with roaches. Why? There's a 99.9999% chance these kids are going to be roommates with bugs until the day they leave their piss-smelling public housing residences. Therefore, from a tender age, young Cabrini kids got initiated into a gang of hardened roach murderers, learning how to gangbang on those motherfuckers when they encroached their set, living room, bedroom, kitchen, etc. So, with all that being said, you already know a ghetto bitch like Fred Quisha was a certified roach hitter. Concentrate, bitch, you got it, Fred Quisha thought to herself. Kill these fuck niggas. Smack! Daddy Roach Sr. went on to be with the Lord. The front of his obituary read, Homegoing celebration for the late Daddy Roach Sr. Sunrise, May 2018 to sunset, June 2018. Reverend Dr. Lucius Roachson, the third presiding. Mama Roach, shocked and grieving, tried to flee for cover. Her 3 kids trailed her, but this lethal Fred Quisha hoe obviously wasn't going to let them get away. They had to motherfucking die too and be buried next to their daddy. Where the fuck y'all think y'all going, huh? Fred Quisha shrieked with retribution colored in her vicious words. Smack, 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 smack. Gruesome, gruesome genocidal sight, an entire family wiped out. But this was just the beginning of a growing problem. Daddy Roach Sr. had 1,861 brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, uncles, aunts, and other relatives lurking in the cut, ready to get to that pizza crust and other discarded trash scattered throughout the cluttered and disgusting apartment. An unclouded Saturday morning, the first weekend in June, Chicago's South Side, the neighborhood, the infamous Englewood, a 10-unit apartment building owned by Mr. Nathaniel Nate Garrison, a retired 67-year-old postal worker, stood on the corner of 63rd Street and Halsted Avenue. 12 years ago, after giving the United States Postal Service 30 hard, sweaty years of carrier service, the Chi-Town Bronzeville native decided to dab into real estate per the advice of his younger brother, Louis. The younger brother had owned some low-income rental properties throughout the predominantly black south and west sides of the city, and Big Bro Nate wanted to get a slice of the apparently rich and decadent rental property income pie. Nate was hesitant at first, given he was more fiscally conservative than his other sibling and didn't want to fuck up his retirement coins. Nate, divorced now for nearly 10 years, father of 4 kids and grandfather to 9, eventually caved in and gave rental property investing a shot. Flash forward a decade, and 2 years later, it turned out that buying an apartment building in the heart of the gradually depopulated Englewood ghetto and filling it with Section 8 voucher recipients was a guaranteed government-subsidized gold mine. Good-ass passive income that diversified his diverse retirement funds. Nate's $65,657 yearly pension, untapped 401k, $1,300 monthly Social Security check, and rental property income afforded him the opportunity to take his quarterly trips to the Dominican Republic. There, he'd be sipping on margaritas and dined on young chocolate prostitute pussy he'd often procure from Punta Cana's white sand beaches. His penchant for foreign coochie explained his lack of addressing the growing issues plaguing the apartment building that housed roughly 23 tenants. Nate was very hands-off when it came to his property management, oftentimes playing Glenn, his functional crackhead ex-brother-in-law, to do spotty, erratic building maintenance. The decade of ownership devolved Nate into a prototypical Chicago slumlord. This is the exact reason why, on this beautiful and sunny Saturday morning, Miss Quisha Pierce, a tenant who had been in the building for now some 3 years, was manifestly heated, and not by the sun, but by the sight of the Roach family she just massacred with no remorse. This was a problem from time to time. She tried to get Mr. Garrison a fix. She'd contact him every so often through email or phone call. Some days later, toothless, crackhead Glenn would arrive, chit-chat, spray the house, lay out some traps, and then take off, not to be seen or heard from for months. Nonetheless, by the end of the day, the former Cabrini resident just grew immune to the infestation. Roaches were just roaches, a minor nuisance, really. Not a problem she felt compelled to bitch and complain to the city of Chicago's housing authority in a letter or phone call. Crazy thing was, the Chicago Housing Authority had a dedicated hotline she could have easily dialed to address this pest issue. Even crazier, Fred Quisha was a Section 8 voucher holder, and these types of issues would get any landlord in trouble big motherfucking time. So much so that Nate's despondent slumlord ass could end up getting banned from Section 8 program and could face serious fines. But not just fines from the federal government, but even the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. However, the unemployed and welfare system abusing Fred Quisha didn't want to rock the boat and snitch on Mr. Garrison. Why? She was constantly late, paying her percentage of the rent that Section 8 didn't cover to Mr. Garrison. Nevertheless, unlike other landlords, he didn't give a fuck so long as he was getting that steady check from the government. Rather than clean up the crushed roach corpses slimed onto the bottom of the wall and baseboard, the uneasy and rushed single mother of 3 furiously made her way back into the kitchen in search of her half-smoked, peach-flavored Philly blunt. Fred Quisha picked the blunt up off one of her dirty kitchen countertops and wedged it in between her crusty, plump purple lips. She whisked out a lighter from her left pocket and lit the blunt. She took 3 long puffs, exhaled, waited a few moments to let the weed calm her jittery nerves. The THC high overtook her portly body. Fred Quisha then opened the palm of her left hand and then hawked up the biggest ball of gooey, frothy spit into her palm. She put the lit end of the blunt out into the vicious pool of saliva and then stuffed it in her pocket for later. Nasty bitch. Her breath a bit tart. Fred Quisha now needed the refreshing taste of menthol in her mouth. Why she didn't just go brush her teeth instead? Well, she was going to handle that later when she went to take a shower. The veteran roach assassin rummaged through a drawer near the same filthy, crowded countertop and pulled out her pack of already open Newports. But she forgot she was already on her last square. Then she quickly remembered she had a partly smoked cig resting in an ashtray with other butts, an almost overflowing mound of ash in the middle. The half smoked square was cooling the fuck out like it was relaxing in a crowded Carnival Cruise jacuzzi. Fred Quisha, slowly getting angry again, dashed into the semi smoky living room and hastily located the ashtray sitting on top of a brown coffee table. Once Miss Pierce spotted the cigarette she smoked last night, she leaned down, pulled it out of the crowded ashtray, and then slapped it in between her cracking dark violet lips. She lit up with a blue Bic lighter in her hand. She took as many quick puffs as she could to finish the cigarette. Once the cig was no longer smokable, she put it out in the ashtray. She blew out a steady stream of smoke from her nostrils like a medieval dragon. With a trail of lingering Newport smoke following her, Fredquisha marched through the dusty, smoky, and dimly lit hallway of her apartment. Her heavy feet thumped on the filthy beige carpet as another roach ran for its life, out of Fredquisha's sight. Lucky motherfucker. He better thank the roach lord. Disregarding the chit-chat and the laugh she heard coming from her two sons' bedroom, Fredquisha stormed her way towards her youngest child's bedroom. She pulled out her cell phone from her back pocket, glanced down in her hand, and saw 9:43 a.m. splattered across the partly cracked iPhone screen. The phone's neon pink cover, encrusted with sequins and glitter, evidently didn't do shit to protect the screen from cracking some months ago. She had dropped it at Hooters out in a suburban Lansing while she was on a date with some low-key dope boy. The agitated mother bit her lip. Fredquisha shook her head out of frustration, feeling like time was wasting on her side. Feeling like time wasn't on her side anymore. Grumbling, she slipped the phone back into her back pocket. Waves of infuriation once again swept over her. She was mad as fuck that she just wasted 4 minutes killing some roaches. Without even bothering to knock, she barged right into her daughter's bedroom. Her daughter was sitting on the floor, Indian style, using a couple of off-brand broke crayons to doodle in some cheap dollar store coloring book. The young girl quickly looked up at her obviously angered guardian. The young daughter knew her mother was livid as her body language projected. "Little girl, I'm finna whoop your ass," Fredquisha, with her eyes now wide and enraged, gawked her young daughter straight into her unassuming juvenile brown doe eyes. Maya, what the fuck is you doing?" The young girl Maya was frozen and silent for a moment before she carefully answered, "Coloring, 'cause I'm done cleaning." Fredquisha looked around with her scrunched her yellow face up. Her vicious eyes widened with more irritation as she saw a pair of pink socks on the floor. "You ain't done yet. Your room still look a mess," Fredquisha roared, and then continued to shout, "Listen, you better hurry up and clean my shit up, little hoe, in 2 seconds. I'm finna smack the fuck out your ugly ass." Fredquisha then screamed out a list of things she thought Maya still needed to tidy up before she was scheduled to go over her grandmother's house for the rest of the weekend. "Okay," Maya responded, once Fredquisha gave her another 4 chores she needed to complete. Fredquisha then growled at her 6-year-old Maya. "Damn, you know you just like your stupid-ass, hard-headed ass daddy. That's why he locked the fuck up now." As the mother kept screaming threats of violence towards her now terrified daughter, Maya jumped up from the floor and jump-started her cleaning. Poor Maya, tremoring at the sound of her mother's hostile tone, nippily tried to do her best to finish tidying up her room, the smallest in the entire apartment. It was actually not a bedroom, rather a large utility closet that Fredquisha converted into a bedroom. Here was the kicker. Maya's room was in actuality the cleanest in the entire 3-bedroom apartment. Aside from her mother, Maya also lived with her 2 older half-brothers. Fredquisha stood by Maya's bedroom door, now holding her arms by her crusty, blackened elbows. She rapidly tapped her foot against the beige carpeted floor, obviously in much need of a vacuum. Hell, truth be told, it needed to be professionally cleaned. Regardless of the trillions of THC molecules running a marathon within Fredquisha's blood vessels, Fredquisha's anger was getting gradually explosive. Especially with Maya, Fredquisha had places to go, people to see, and ultimately some dicks to suck later tonight if her plans went smoothly. Fred Quisha, 34, once a vixen back in her day, was now a tired-ass looking hoe who stood about 5'5" and weighed a solid 213 pounds. She thought she was around 175, but she hadn't been to her general family physician, Dr. Patrice, in a while. Her doctor was down the block at the free women's health clinic, but Fred Quisha only made a visit when she had a bad yeast infection, STI, or when she'd get a long-lasting turbulent case of bacterial vaginosis. Known once for her small waist, Fred Quisha was now in possession of a plump, undefined midriff. Remnants of what was once a thick ass resembled two steroid injected brown potatoes lumped together. A set of double D cup droop titties hung from her chest, with no bra on. It was visible from the shirt covering her chest that she had both nipples pierced. The biggest black satin bonnet cap crowned Fred Quisha's head this morning, matching the slightly torn up black wife beater wrapped around her chest and torso. A big Celtic cross tattooed was etched into her unshaven right arm. A spread of angel wings was tatted across her upper chest. Some faded blue denim Bermuda shorts she bought some years ago from the Rainbow store not too far away tightly snugged her cellulite-ridden legs. Under the sour-smelling bonnet were 7 cornrows braided into the ratchet mother's skull. Yesterday, Maya's disability check, Fred Quisha had the girl diagnosed with ADHD to get them Social Security federal government coins, came in the mail, and rather use the funds towards good use, like tutoring or after-school care, a bitch was about to go get her nails, hair, and feet done. Tonight was the night Fred Quisha swore up and down she was gonna snag her a baller at Dash, some upscale black nightclub in the South Loop, South Downtown. Paulette, Fred Quisha's hairdresser, really just her bestie who knew how to do hair, had this bomb-ass, ultra-long, middle-part lace front that she was gonna glue onto the bitch's head and have her ass looking like she was straight from Bangladesh or some shit. With time slipping away and the feeling of anxiety giving her a slight migraine, Fred Quisha temporarily turned her attention away from Maya and then shot her head down into the room across the hall. Hey, Kimani and Zymir, y'all need to hurry the fuck up and be ready in 5 minutes. Your grandma gonna be here soon, and so will Maya's. I got shit to do, and you badass kids already fucking with my motherfucking weekend plans. Hurry the fuck up now. Okay, mama, the 2 boys barked from the other side of their bedroom door, not saying a word. The slender, brown-skinned daughter continued to scuttle her room, trying to figure out what else she could do to make the room look tidier. Still feeling her mother's vicious presence burning in the back of her head, Maya quickly scanned the room with her innocent eyes, looking to see if she did a good job. She felt she was done and did her best to follow her mother's irrational instructions. Since her father, Austin, was locked up and serving a 2-year sentence in Cook County Jail for a probation violation, Maya lived in the oppressive terror of her mother. Maya, living with Fred Quisha, went completely against Austin's wishes. Before getting locked up, he tried hard to convince the judge to hand over custody of Maya to his mother, Mrs. Watkins. Austin thought Fred Quisha was reckless, filthy, irresponsible, and unfit to be a parent. Was he lying though? Nevertheless, of course, this was his perception, and the courts have a different perception. So unfortunately for Austin, his quest to get his mother awarded custody of Maya fell on deaf ears. Like most of these nonchalant, non-caring family courts that seem to always side with the mother, even without doing faithful due diligence, Judge Kathleen Steinberg, right before Austin was sentenced and locked up, threw the gauntlet at him. The judge refused to hand over custody to Austin's mother. Her reasoning was the courts couldn't trust the family of a man who was a reputed gang member and gun trafficker. Also, there was no official reports of abuse filed with DCFS and made Fred Quisha out to be an incapable parent. If anything, the judge ended up siding with the struggling single mother. The judge didn't just stop there, though. Not only did she deny Austin's mother to hand off full custody to his mother, Not only did she deny Austin's motion to hand off full custody to his mother, but she also rescinded his shared custody agreement with Fred Quisha and gave the abusive mother full custody, virtually eliminating his legal visitation rights. Courts wouldn't even consider a court-supervised visitation, making Austin out to be a ruthless criminal. The judge even considered a protective order against the father, and it was enforced until the day he went to jail, and would remain in effect until he got out and went back to court for another hearing. Truth be told, Austin, while he was sincere and had a good heart to do right by his daughter, fucked up and didn't do his research. See, that day in court, Fred Quisha was the one who ended up truly playing her cards right. She had Jocelyn, her Section 8 caseworker, vouch for her and her motherly qualities. She had good references from the daycare she used to work in at Pullman. Austin wanted the judge to consider possible testimony from Maya herself. However, the judge refused, said she couldn't truly honor testimony coming from a 5.5-year-old for two reasons. Maya was diagnosed with ADHD, so Judge Steinberg said that any negative testimony coming from a mentally challenged child couldn't be trusted. And Maya, well, she was 5.5 at the time, her age plays a huge role in credibility in testimony. Absolutely devastating. But this wasn't a fringe case unfamiliar to a lot of men. This was an everyday occurrence in so many family courts in America. Now, one would assume that a man who wanted full custody of her child obviously had an unshakable, unbreakable bond with her growing daughter. But this simply and obviously wasn't the case at all. Between Fred Quisha and Maya, Fred Quisha simply wanted to get her claws on the child for the sake of extracting government benefits and a yearly tax write-off. Nothing else. Now, Fred Quisha did do the bare minimum to provide for her daughter's basic necessities. However, she obviously showed more love and support towards her two oldest sons, Kimani, 12, and Zymir, 10. Always had the freshest and latest shit. Jordans, PlayStation, cell phones, you name it. Those two young bad nigga boys had it. Maya, on the other hand, well, her mother would barely buy her anything. All her toys came from the dollar store or the dollar star. Bitch wouldn't even buy her own daughter toys at least from Walmart or Five Below. While her boys stayed with the freshest linens copped from the malls out in the burbs or department stores or Michigan Avenue, Maya had hand-me-downs, donated clothes, or clothes bought from the Salvation Army. And that was if Fred Quisha felt like spending some extra money on the girl. So where did all of this antipathy for her 6-year-old daughter come from? Before getting locked up, Austin and Fred Quisha were in an off-and-on turbulent relationship. Although he truly had no long-term plans to wife her, he still paraded her around as his main. However, as their tumultuous relationship unraveled, Austin ended up leaving Fred Quisha, and this set off a cascade of events that ultimately led to there being a deep and dangerous rift between Fred Quisha and Austin. Fred Quisha, being a bitter and spiteful ratchet bitch, made no qualms either to take her disdain for Austin out on his progeny. Twisted as it may seem, Maya was Fred Quisha's punching bag in every sense of the word, while Austin was locked up. Frequent ass whooping, starvation, grounding, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, you name it. Fred Quisha specialized in it and made it known to Maya every day she wasn't well liked. It was sickening that a woman could birth such an innocent child into the world, and rather than take their frustration out on the father, she turned her frustration onto her very own innocent and precious daughter, who simply just wanted to enjoy her semblance of childhood. Tears. Ah, Maya screamed as her eyes spotted the biggest brown roach crawling one of the walls in her bedroom. Maya instantly dashed towards the corner and had an expression of trepidation buried into the small features of her brown face. "What you scream for, ho?" Fred Quisha rasped with her screwed up face. "It's a roach, mommy." As Fred Quisha pulled the half-smoked blunt out of her pocket and lit it up in front of the child, she huffed, "Bitch, a roach," rolling her eyes and shaking her head. But Fred Quisha, hearing her daughter calling her mommy, suddenly got her very inflamed. "And what I told you about calling me mommy? Call me Fred Quisha. Got it?" Maya jumped again. "Yes, ma'am." The panicked girl froze for a moment, still looking at her mother with full fear, but not fear rooted in respect, fear rooted in a pending ass beating. "There's a roach on the wall, Fred Quisha," Maya slowly answered, pointing at the roach, the sound of dread defining her response. Fred Quisha rolled her eyes again as she blew out a steady, heavy stream of smoke from her wide nostrils and huffed. "Ugh, ready, little bitch? Ugh, really, little bitch? That's just a damn roach. Fuck you scared for, a pussy hoe? Go get your shoe and go kill it, now." But I'm scared, Fred Quisha. Don't make me ask you again or else," Fred Quisha interrupted, instantly cutting off Maya's plea. Fred Quisha ambled deeper into the room and towered over her visibly shaken daughter. "Now, I said go get your shoe and go kill it now." Silent and quivering, a tear ran out of Maya's right eye as she looked up at her so-called mother. "I'm scared." Slap! Without hesitation, Fred Quisha's right hand went across Maya's face. "I said kill it. In fact, Go kill it with your hand. Fuck the shoe. She wanted to jumpstart a Saturday session of physical brutality. Maya listened to her mom's stern instructions as she fought back tears. She carefully paced herself to the wall where the roach was located. In Chicago, roaches often looked like Rice Krispies with tiny legs. However, last year, after coming back from a quick getaway in Florida, Quisha somehow managed to bring down some Fred Quisha somehow managed to bring some down south roach eggs in her luggage back with her. When she and a few of her besties went down to Miami for spring break, they stayed at an Airbnb, and that was where Fred Quisha believed the infestation started. She fucked up and left partly open packages of Little Debbie Nutty Bars in her suitcase, and more than likely, some 305 mama roaches smelled the sweet chocolate peanut butter crisp buffet from a mile away. At least that was the story Fred Quisha told herself to justify where the big ass non local roaches originated. Who knows if that was the truth? But Fred Quisha refused to do anything serious about the growing roach problem in her apartment other than call up Glenn to spray. Maya, now only a foot away from the roach, climbed on her bed and cautiously moved her hand over closer to the wall. Girl, if you don't kill that motherfucking roach, I finna kill your motherfucking ass. Fred Quisha warned with widened, intimidating eyes. Maya had listened too because she knew her mother's word was bond when it came to ass beatings. The young, petrified girl raised her hand and hovered it about an inch away from the roach. Maya, if you don't stop fucking around and kill that roach, bitch, I swear I'm gonna kill your, I swear I'm gonna go across your nappy head. Maya's hand trembled. She couldn't do it. The roach was literally almost the size of her palm and had the thickest wings. Wings were so long and thick that motherfucking roach was offering first class tickets to fly other critters to Dubai and shit. The roach's long antennas moved from side to side almost as if it could detect looming death. You better run, Forrest. Run, Forrest, run. Fred Quisha once again quickly spat in her hand and put the blunt out. She looked around the room and saw a Vibe magazine on top of the girl's dresser. Maya obviously didn't read Vibe. Fred Quisha forgot and left it there one night when she cussed the girl out for not cleaning up the bathroom right. Fred Quisha quickly rolled the magazine up into a makeshift pipe and lunged towards the girl. She then raised the Vibe magazine pipe in her hand and pulled it back in the air, ready to go across Maya's skull. Kill it, goddammit! Smack! Maya's hand crushed the bug in her hands. The roach's exterior crunched in her small palm. Gut, gooey, white, yellowish roach gut slime splashed all over. Maya would have vomited, but she had nothing in her stomach to throw up. No food was in the house other than an old loaf of bread, an expired package of off-brand Walmart deli ham, and some watery yellow mustard. Fred Quisha leaned in and grabbed Maya off the bed. Now go wipe your goddamn hands. Get some paper towel and clean that mess up. I'm giving your ass a minute. Fred Quisha then swiped the magazine across the girl's back and bottom. Wasting my damn time, Fred Quisha continued to grumble as she made her way out of the bedroom. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Fred Quisha's iPhone nestled in her back pocket, vibrated. She threw the magazine back onto the dresser, picked the blunt up and put it in her mouth, and then whipped out her phone. She saw a text coming in from Mama. I'm downstairs, Fred Quisha's mother, Evelyn texted. The ratchet matriarch agreed to babysit her grandchildren this weekend. Mrs. Watkins, Austin's mother, was minutes away from picking up Maya to babysit her as well, but hadn't texted Fred Quisha yet. Kimani, Zymir, hurry up, your granny here. Get your shit and leave, Fred Quisha barked in front of the boys' bedroom door. Suddenly, the door opened with the two boys decked out in some fly gear from the Nike store, hugged their mother, and then flashed down the hallway and out the front door. Fred Quisha smiled, feeling overcome with joy as she watched her two boys exit the house. She wasn't just joyful, she was going to have some time to herself. She felt a sense of rapture and pride that her boys were growing fast, becoming the young men she'd always envisioned, real street niggas, dope boys, just like their fathers. Maya, after washing her hands, made her way back into the bedroom and began to clean up the roach murder scene on the wall with some water-drenched paper towel. Fred Quisha's disposition quickly went back to insane as she looked her daughter up and down as if she was some unknown wayward stranger. If you make any mention to your grandma of what happened today, remember you gonna get it when you get home. You understand me, little girl? Yes, ma'am, Maya carefully replied as she wiped the wall. When you get done, bring your motherfucking ass and your clothes back to the living room and sit there and wait for your grandmommy to come here. Do not mess with my television either. I finna take a shit, then a shower. Do not come in my room for nothing. Don't run your tiny hands through my fridge either. Let your granny feed your ass. She should be here in 15 more minutes. You understand me? Yes, ma'am. Maya once again responded. Good. Fred Quisha spun on her flip-flops and strode her way towards her bedroom. The sound of her flip-flops popping filled the hallway.